Now I'll give you a quick roundup on US election, which WION has been tracking very closely minute by minute. The United States is the world's oldest democracy. The country has its own set of challenges that it struggles with even till this day. One of those challenges is voter participation. Now, analysts say that there is a historical lack of enthusiasm among the American voters. Many of them tune out the election because of political mudslinging or even rising misinformation. But this year was different. The US has registered the highest voter turnout during the most challenging election. Remember, this is one election that's happening during the pandemic. In 2020, 65% Americans have cast votes, as you can see. This estimates to 150 million people. Now, the number is likely to increase as some states are still counting votes. In 2016, a little more than 60% people had voted. That is more than 138 million people. In 2012, presidential election witnessed the lowest voter turnout in years. As you can see on my screen, it was estimated around 58%. However, in 2008, 61% people had voted. It is worth noting that this year Americans have voted in record numbers. Americans have also broken a record set back in 1960 when more than 63% people had voted. Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden has broken a record set by his former boss Barack Obama. Now, so far, it has been estimated that Joe Biden got 72 million votes. As you can see clearly, at the moment, he has been taking the lead as well. Biden has received more number of votes than any presidential candidate in the history of the United States. Barack Obama broke this record with 69.5 million votes when he was running for president in 2008. President Donald Trump is inching closer to Obama's record with more than 68 million votes. And so it is highly likely that both presidential candidates will break Obama's record before counting ends. Now, 2020 US presidential election has been a real nail-biter, and from the looks of it, it's going to be a close call. I'll tell you why. Now, remember, the magic number is 270, which both Trump and Biden are fighting for. Each candidate needs 270 electoral college votes to take the White House. Joe Biden has 264 electoral votes, as the screen shows you, while Donald Trump has 214 electoral votes. Even though Joe Biden has taken a lead, it is difficult to predict how things will pan out for the country, because remember, even the Dems have been constantly saying that wait until the last vote is counted. One of the reasons is that Team Trump has said that it will resort to legal action, something that Donald Trump had already threatened during his address at the White House yesterday. Now remember, yesterday Donald Trump shocked America when he also said that he doesn't want any more votes to be counted and had all but declared victory. And before we get into that, it is also crucial to get a sense of the numbers. Let's break them down for you. Let's start with Pennsylvania. As you can see, Donald Trump is leading with 51% votes. Joe Biden is not too far behind with 47.9% votes. Pennsylvania is among a handful of very crucial battleground states where Donald Trump and Joe Biden are narrowly contesting. Trump had prematurely declared victory when he held a 675,000 vote lead. His lead then slipped down to more than half, making it a tight race in Pennsylvania. Under the state law, it's important to note that election officials are not allowed to process mail-in ballots until the election day, which was yesterday. And that is also perhaps what explains this delay in the counting. Experts say that most of the mail-in ballots are expected to favor Joe Biden, which have historically always been in the favor of the Democrats, while in-person voters this year are expected to favor Donald Trump. More than 1 million votes are yet to be counted, so we will have to wait to know the result. Now remember, Donald Trump won Pennsylvania by a small margin back in 2016. Henceforth, it's important to keep in mind right now that the projections that we are showing you, as far as the victory is concerned, these are projected wins. However, Democrats consider the state as a key part of the blue wall, and that is Pennsylvania. Both candidates have held multiple election rallies in Pennsylvania. Let's now quickly shift our attention over to Wisconsin and Michigan, two crucial Midwestern states where stakes have been high. Joe Biden won both the states by a narrow margin. In Michigan, Joe Biden got 50.3% votes, as you can see, whereas Donald Trump got 48.1% votes. As you can see, the the entire competition has been very neck and neck. In Wisconsin, Joe Biden got 49.6% votes, while Donald Trump got 48.9% votes. A razor-thin margin. Remember, Michigan and Wisconsin slipped away from Democrats 4 years ago as voters chose Donald Trump back in 2016. This time round, these two states brought Biden closer to the magic number of 270 electoral votes. Was it the pandemic or the mishandling of the pandemic by Donald Trump? Was it unemployment? Was it racism? There's been a host of issues that could be behind this swing state. With this, we can see that the crumbling blue wall is only getting stronger. Biden is also 6 electoral votes away from being called the president-elect. Nevada is a state with 6 electoral votes where Biden is leading with 49.3% votes. If Biden manages to win Nevada, it would effectively put an end to Donald Trump's tenure in the White House. But again, we will have to wait as Nevada is still counting votes. Every election has its challenges, but this one particularly was one of the most unpredictable, polarized and even divisive. Unlike previous elections, states this time are dealing with an avalanche of mail-in ballots. Early voting has been unprecedented in the United States. Now, having said that, at least as far as this is 74% of the total votes which have been cast in 2016, because at least 103 million people have voted early, either by mail or in person. Now, after 3 years of officially announcing it, the United States has also officially withdrawn from the Paris Climate Agreement. The climate accord has been one contentious issue in the United States. Many of the young American voters have been supporting the climate accord and have not supported Donald Trump's decision to exit the accord. Now, having said that, United Nations regulations refused to let Donald Trump withdraw from the accord back in the year 2017. The Paris deal was drafted in 2015 to strengthen the global response to the threat of climate change and came into force in November 2016. It aims to keep the global temperature rise well below 2 degrees Celsius and to pursue efforts to limit the temperature increase even further to 1.5 degrees Celsius. 55 countries part of this accord are expedited and expected to stocktake every 5 years to assess collective progress. And so clearly, the future of America's climate change policy hangs on the election outcome. President Donald Trump and Democratic nominee Joe Biden would undoubtedly lead the country in opposite directions. Biden, who has called climate change the existential threat to humanity, took to Twitter saying, and I quote, "The Biden administration will immediately rejoin the Paris Accord if elected." Here you go. Joe Biden has already promised to join the accord, something which was a burning issue for Donald Trump. He exited the accord, but here we have the Democratic presidential nominee making a promise to return to climate accord. For all you know, a lot of voters might have been affected by this decision as well. But even if he wins the White House, his plan to invest trillions of dollars towards making U.S. a greener nation will face a deeply divided Congress. While the electoral map appeared to tilt in Biden's favor, it seems that the GOP, or the Grand Old Party, will retain control of the Senate. And this would make it difficult for a Biden administration to shepherd a comprehensive climate bill through the upper chamber. If the Senate remains Republican majority, any legislation would need the consent of Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. The Republican Senate leader from the coal mining state of Kentucky has a long history of opposing any federal action on climate. Nonetheless, the uncertain election outcome does not change the scientific reality of rising temperatures all over the globe. The burning of fossil fuels and other human activity continues to warm the earth at an alarming rate. The United States could miss its own Paris Accord commitment to lower carbon emissions 26% to 28% below 2005 levels by 2025. And so, according to a report, the country is on track to cut its emissions between 20 and 27%, depending on how quickly the economy recovers from the pandemic. But it would need to cut emissions by 43% over the next decade to be on track to reach net zero emissions by 2050. This is a goal that the European Union, Japan, South Korea and even other nations have set in a push to slow the world's warming. And So earlier we spoke to senior journalist Ray Locker, who had joined us from Washington, D.C. earlier during the day. Now that Biden has vowed to rejoin the Paris Agreement if he wins, how can this be viewed in the face of climate change? Let's listen into what Mr. Locker has to say.
Well, I think anybody who considers climate change a serious concern, and I think it's a majority of Americans, look upon that favorably. There was no really any kind of public demand to get out of the Paris Accord. That was something that Trump wanted to do because he doesn't like agreements like that. And I don't think there's going to be a lot of opposition to us re-entering that. You know, the major concern is if you're in an agreement like that, how does it affect American lives? Is their gasoline going to become more expensive? Or are their utility bills going to become more expensive? And what we've actually seen over the last few years is a huge increase in the use of renewable fuels, wind and solar, and a big drop in the cost of those sources of power. And I expect that to continue, and I think it would have continued under any president.